Hey everybody, I'm Andrew of the Movie Buff Pains, here with another episode of Andrew's Animation. Today I'm doing another entry in my Obscurities of Animation series. I have 3 movies to talk about, and I'll go ahead and dive right in on them. The first movie I have just came out on Blu-Ray this last week, but I was so intrigued by it that I wanted to check it out really quick. And that one is Red Shoes and the Seven Dwarves. This is a different take on the Snow White tale. It involves a Snow White who is much curvier than any previous iteration. And this Snow White comes into possession of a pair of magic shoes that transform her into what everyone else says is a beautiful woman. And it's about her not only trying to evade her stepmother, but also trying to find her father. So she calls on a group of heroes to help her. What she doesn't know is that these heroes have a curse on them that has transformed them into dwarves. And they'll do anything to try and get the kiss of a princess to transform them back into the handsome men they were before. What really caught my eye about this movie originally wasn't anything to do with the story itself to begin with. It actually involved some stories about the marketing campaign. The original marketing for this started at a festival, and at the festival they had a poster and a promotional clip. Both the poster and the promotional clip very much fat-shamed Snow White. It was awful. I found a picture of the poster, I found the clip, I looked at them, and I was mortified by just how bad this was. It was very obvious that the people involved in the marketing knew nothing about the film. Yes, they had some very small basics about this film, but the message they conveyed very much was, you ain't seen this before, Snow White's fat. It was, oh my gosh, it was awful. It was so awful that Chloe Grace Moretz, who voices Snow White, came out and was like, whoa, this is not the movie I helped make. This is very bad. And of course the studio came back, apologized. They did not use that poster or that clip anymore. Either way, the damage was initially done that they looked very bad. I mean, who knew a poster of all things could cause such a riot amongst the masses? I don't think I've ever seen anything like that of any caliber. Either way, the marketing campaign very much was the opposite of what the movie was trying to get to. And the message of the film is that it does not matter what you look like whatsoever. What matters is the person that you are. It was a cute film to say the least. The message was definitely there for me to see, and it was entertaining, but definitely very kid-friendly. There were some funny moments, but overall I was like, yeah, this is definitely one that would be more enjoyable for kids probably. But I still give it 3 out of 5 stars. It was entertaining to say the least. The next movie I have for you is Strange Magic. This was a film made by Lucasfilm, of all companies. It was the only major feature to come out of Lucasfilm that wasn't Star Wars. Literally everything else that Lucasfilm's animation department has ever done is Star Wars related. And it is crazy that something like this was able to get out there. But it was a passion project of George Lucas. He wanted to create something for his kids, and it took a long time for it to come to fruition. And it actually came out right as Disney had bought up Lucasfilm. So this actually making it out to the world is kind of a surprise in itself. And unfortunately, it bombed. It did horribly. I mean, the thing was made with like $100 million budget, and it made all of $13 million globally. I have never seen that stark difference in numbers for a box office receipts, honestly. It was very shocking to say the least, especially for something coming out from Lucasfilm. You would think that their studio name alone would have been enough to interest some people, but apparently not that much. The movie itself was panned by critics and by most audience members, honestly. It's been out for 5 years, and I just got around to watching it for the first time the other day. And so I went in with zero expectations on this movie. I had heard so much bad against it, I was going, boy, this is probably gonna suck. And honestly, I was surprised. I found it quite enjoyable. George Lucas came up with the original story idea for this movie, and it's a mixture of Shakespeare and Beauty and the Beast in a way. And it was actually quite entertaining. I think the most shocking aspect of the film to me was the fact that it is a jukebox musical. I didn't even know that going into the movie. So I was very much surprised when the opening scene of the film, the main character all of a sudden started singing an Elvis cover. And you know what? I was iffy about it at first, but as the movie progressed, I was like, you know what? This isn't nearly as bad of an aspect for the film as I thought it would be. And it actually had some entertaining moments involving the music. Overall, I think people really just overjudged this film. It's not nearly as bad as most people say. It's actually very entertaining and very cute. The animation is very detailed and very well done. I mean, I would expect nothing less of a company that has been bringing us some top-notch animation for their main cash cow of Star Wars. But it was definitely a fun film. I still only give it 3 out of 5 stars because it is definitely not perfect, but it's definitely not as bad as most people say. It's a fun watch. If you like musicals and you like fantasy, then it's definitely worth checking out. The last one I have to talk about today is a film called Ballerina, but in America, that we decided to go with the name Leap. Now, I have several thoughts on this film, but I'll leave those for in a minute or two. I'll go over just a bit about the film itself first. Leap follows a young girl who dreams of nothing more than being a dancer, and it follows her journey from an orphanage to Paris in trying to fulfill that dream. And it is a very cute story, to say the least. It is very enjoyable. I think another thing is that the animation in this is quite good. Maybe not nearly Disney or DreamWorks status, but it has got a lot of detail to it, especially in the shots of Paris itself. They are gorgeous. And the people that made this film did get some reference from ballet dancers' movements to be able to animate the dancing a little more realistically. It's a very good film in my opinion. There's a lot to like about it, but there is a caveat with that, and that's where we get into a bit more of the nitty-gritty. Across the world, this film is called Ballerina, and it is a rather artistic piece in a lot of ways, and it's a fun watch. In America, the movie is called Leap and has some drastic differences actually. Leap was put out by the Weinstein Company, and of course this came out right at the end before they lost all control and every other project that they had on their slate. But in the process of bringing Ballerina to American audiences, they were like, well, 1, the title has to change. No idea why, honestly. 2, we need to recast some of the actors. We need to add more recognizable American names, because that's important, I guess. You know, most people don't go to animated films based on the cast, but apparently the Weinstein Company felt it was very necessary to add in Nat Wolff, Mel Brooks, and Kate McKinnon on the cast for various characters. And if it had just been that, you know what? It probably would have been fine. But there's another issue at hand here. The third change that the Weinstein Company brought was that they added dialogue. Of course, they usually added the dialogue to characters that were off screen or that you couldn't see their faces, so as it was, believable. But a lot of the times, it was very off-putting, and sometimes if they were redubbing lines, you could see just how out of sync the words were with the animation, and it was bad at points. I mean, really bad. But for whatever reason, the Weinstein Company thought that there wasn't enough exposition and comedy. It was very jarring to watch both versions of the film. I watched Ballerina and was like, oh, this really is such a cute film. It is an adorable film. Very much like that. And the next day I watched Leap, and I just stared at the screen wondering what was happening to this wonderful film. The added dialogue was usually pretty bad and corny at points. The dubbing tracks were out of sync quite a number of times throughout the film, and honestly, it seemed like the purpose of the Weinstein Company was to turn this into a straight-up comedy, which I don't understand. Ballerina is dramatic and comedic, and mixes fairly well, whereas Leap very much tried to skew more towards comedy, and it just left a bad taste in my mouth. Now, to give you an idea of just how different I feel these versions are, Ballerina, 3.5 out of 5. It is enjoyable, it does have its issues, but it is very much worth the watch. It's definitely one I'll revisit down the line. I'm hoping to get the Canadian copy of the movie so that I have the appropriate version on disc. Leap, however, I would honestly give it 2 out of 5. I mean, it's a whole 1.5 stars below just because of the horrible syncing, the weird additional lines, and just the overall tone of the film being changed so much. It definitely took it down a few notches for me. So if you're going to watch this, I recommend trying to find the version titled Ballerina. Depending on where you live, it could be very easy to access. In America, of course, they push Leap, since it is the American version, but it's also a product of a lot of studio interference, which I do not appreciate. The original version is a lot better in my personal opinion. It does not need all the corny one-liners, and it doesn't need to have American actors for it to be enjoyable. Two very different experiences in my opinion, and again, I recommend Ballerina over Leap. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know I enjoy making this particular series. That I feel there are always titles that not that many people know about that should be brought into the light. And I have a whole list of ones that I want to go over and bring to your guys' attention, so I hope you'll tune in for those future videos as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you on the next one.